Hi, and welcome to DC Supersons. I'm Dan.
I'm Jake.
No, I'm not. We know that's a lie. Dan and Jake are in jail, those little fuckers.
Yeah, it's finally happened, you know? I mean, we all knew it was going to happen, but it's just, you know, the streets just feel safer now.
I mean, you're right. It was only a matter of time. Those guys just keep running around, messing up the whole entire cosmic balance of the universe, and I'm really surprised that they weren't caught a lot sooner.
I mean, there are many crimes that, you know, should be thrown in jail for, you know, theft, ruining the cosmic balance, jaywalking, you know. I think it's that what finally did them in, but hey ho.
I heard that Dan stole somebody's sandwich.
That does sound both like him and very much a crime. I don't know where we're going with this bit.
I don't think we know where any of us is going. Anyway, we are here to help explain some of why you should get into some DC stuff, because DC actually has some good stuff going on, and it's really cool. So whether you're a new fan or an old fan who is inevitably going to come on and say, hey, Chris, you're a dumbass, here's some things you were wrong about. We just want to have some fun kind of talking to you about the season premiere of Season 6 of the CW TV show Flash.
Are we talking about the season premiere of Season 6? Because I thought we were talking about the season premiere of Season 1.
Let me look at his email again.
Okay.
I thought it was 6.
Because he said the pilot, I think.
Did he?
You said the first episode of the show.
You guys don't have all day in the booth, you know. I have other auditions to come in, and you know, if you guys want to do this whole thing and take over for Dan and Jake, you got to get a little more serious about your organizational skills.
Oh, well, we're here to talk about the pilot episode of Flash.
Starting well.
This is going to be a ton of fun. Flash is somebody that I didn't really know a lot about going into this TV show. So for good or bad, this is what I think of when I think of Flash.
Yeah, I had never really been a comics person. I just realised I haven't introduced myself. Hi, I'm Finn. I'm from Britain. But no, so I'd never really been a comics person. Like, I'd read comics, but I hadn't got massively into them. I'd never really read I knew Batman and I knew Superman and stuff like that, but I'd never really read any DC. And then it was been like 2015. I was on a plane, and because it was like a long flight. I think it was a flight to China or something like that. There was a TV, on the back of the seat, and there were some English shows and stuff like that. And there was the first episode of The Flash, and I was like, okay, I'm bored. This flight's going to take a while, so I'll check this out. And so yeah, this sort of defined The Flash in my head, and defined a lot of DC Comics as a whole.
And then I'm Chris. I have a podcast called Play Comics, where I look at video games based on comic properties and how well they stick to that source material. And a lot of my getting into comic things growing up was through the video games. So I didn't read a lot of comics because that would have been a ton of stuff to move with, and my dad was military, so moving a lot was just something that I didn't want to carry around a bunch of comics all the time. And I'm old enough to where digital was not an option. So for me, I didn't really start reading any comics until I got to college, and I knew that I wasn't going to be moving around all the time. So what I knew about comic characters was what was on TV shows, what was in the few movies that were out at the time, and what I could pick up from the video games. So for me, I mean, this is Barry Allen Flash. Going into this, I only knew that there were different Flashes because there were some different Flashes on some of the cartoons, like the wonderful Justice League and Justice League Unlimited.
So, in the first episode of Flash, obviously it was a spin-off of Arrow, which was a show that came before it, and it has stars Grant Gustin, who I think was known for Glee. He's probably known for some other things, but I knew him from Glee as Barry Allen, which is, looking back, it probably makes sense, but the jump in my head was a strange one. But he's sort of, when I see Grant Gustin, I can only see Barry Allen now. It's very strange.
I'm the same way there, and seeing anybody else as Barry is just strange to me too.
Yeah, like watching the Justice League film was very odd because obviously it was just a different guy, and I was like, I've only ever seen one person play Barry Allen, and that is Grant Gustin. So it was a strange thing watching it. But no, do you want to start talking about the episode?
Let's do it.
Okay, so first off, I have a whole few pages of notes, and the first thing I've noted down is the gospel theme kind of slaps, which is referring to the sort of it's the Flash theme with the sort of like in the background. I don't know why, I've always loved that. It's an excellent little piece. But yeah, that's the first note. Should we just give an overview of the plotline of the first episode?
Let's go for it.
Okay, so episode begins, and we have Barry, who is a CSI for Central City Police, talking about his youth and his childhood, in which his mother, Nora, is killed by this man inside a yellow blur, and his father sent to prison. And then Barry and his best friend, sister, love interest? It's weird. Attend a sort of announcement press conference unveiling of this particle accelerator built by Harrison Wells, who I talk for ages about how much I love Harrison Wells, by Star Labs. And at the same time, Iris's dad, Barry's not stepfather, but like adopted father after his father left prison, Joe West, and his partner find Clyde and Mark Marden, and Clyde and his brother escape on a plane that they just happen to have, and then the particle accelerator explodes, crashes the plane, and Barry's struck by lightning. In a very dramatic scene. I was rewatching it. It's a brilliant scene. But yeah, then 9 months later, Barry wakes up from a coma in Star Labs and meets Caitlin Snow, Cisco Ramon, and Harrison Wells, who has wound up in a wheelchair after the explosion. And they sort of explain what's going on. And Barry's just not interested, he leaves to go see Iris. But then he gets super speed and just runs everywhere screaming for a bit, which is, a great little scene. And then Clyde Marden turns back up, and he has weather powers. I have written in my notes in capital letters, "Weather Wizard, baby." Very exciting. And Barry tries to stop him. Doesn't, because he doesn't know how his powers work yet. He's able to identify this is Clyde Marden. He has weather powers. But no one believes him. Barry talks to the team at Star Labs, and they explained that the accelerator gave lots of people powers instead of just Barry, which they're called metahumans. Barry feels hurt at being betrayed by this. Well, not really betrayed, but not explained these things, and so goes to Starling City to talk to the Arrow. So it's linked because they had to put the Arrow in there, and he just gives a monologue about heroism. And then Barry comes back, gets trained by Kayla and Cisco, gets given a suit, like the Flash suit they just have lying around. I think they say it's for firefighters. They just have it. And Joe and his new partner, Eddie Thorne, which is not relevant at all. Eddie Thorne, nothing happens to him. Don't worry about Eddie Thorne. Find Marden. Barry turns up, fights Marden. Marden turns into a hurricane, and then Barry pulls a whole Superman move and runs the other way, and manages to stop him. There's a confrontation, there's screaming, and then Joe kills Clyde Marden before Marden can kill Barry with his weather powers. And then Joe says he's sorry for not believing him about the powers, you know how it goes, and Barry's all like, oh, we'll help people. So that's all very well and good. And then at the end, Harrison Wells, he goes in a secret little room, and it turns out he can walk, even though he said he was wheelchair bound. Then he looks at a newspaper from 2024, which is 5 years away now. That's wild. But at the time it was 10 years away. From 2024, that just says Flash missing, vanishes in crisis. And who knows what that's about,
Yeah, that's not important at all. Not at all.
Never comes back.
Just dangling plot threads all over the place.
But that's the first episode. And as I was watching, I was picking up some little things I'd completely forgotten about. When Barry first turns up to do the CSI thing, he does his all looking at evidence. Have you ever seen Sherlock?
I have. I love that show.
You know the thing in Sherlock where he'll be looking at evidence and little text will appear on screen explaining what the evidence is when he's looking at something. It'll say gun wound from something, millimeter bullets.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool little plot device thing they have there going.
They do it in Sherlock, and they do it in the first episode of The Flash when Barry's looking at tire tracks and the thing pops up on the screen, and then they never do it again. And I'm like, that's such a cool... Why did you drop that? That's such a cool thing. Because it sort of emphasizes the fact that, Barry, is good at other things other than running. He's a very good CSI. But they just, never bring that back.
I think that's one thing that I really wish that they would have kept, although they do kind of keep going with the fact that Barry's a smart guy. I mean, his super speed does kind of extend into his mental powers, too. Not that he has mental powers, really, but he's a smart guy, so he can think even faster than he could before. I mean, it speeds up everything about him, up to the point where, I might be spoiling a bit here, because I don't remember if this is in the episode or not, but he can't get drunk.
Oh no, I don't. That's not in the episode. But yeah, he can't get drunk. At one point in the episode, he breaks his arm and it's healed in 3 hours. Everything about him sped up, and he was smart before he got the powers. I have a note that just says science 2 question marks, which is before the pilot accelerator explodes, because he just starts talking about physics, and I didn't tune out, but I was sort of just nodding. I was like, okay, Barry, you carry on, my friend.
Yep, that's science. I'm not even going to pretend to understand that kind of science. It's completely over my head. But he sounded like he knew what he was talking about.
Most superhero things, when they bring up science, very rarely has basis in real science. It'll just be them using big words and going, yeah, that sounds slightly real, and we all just, no, it's not, but sort of nod and go, yeah, you know, we can't be asked to look up whether or not that's true or not, so we're just going to believe you.
It's just part of the fiction where there's some things you just accept as being real.
Listen, this is a TV show where a guy gets struck by lightning and gets super speed. He can chat shit about physics if he wants. But there are so many elements from The Flash that obviously are in the comics are recurring things like important side characters, and there are important side characters in the show. And the fact that like some of the most important characters from the show just aren't in the comics is so weird to me. Like, I'm fairly sure Joe just like either doesn't exist or doesn't have like a relevant role in the comics, which is so weird because he's such like in my head Joe is such a important part of the Flash mythos. Like, he's such an important part of Team Flash. And then, even crazier to me is the fact that Harrison Wells, I'm fairly sure, is like a Flash TV show original character. Because, like, so much of the CW shows as a whole, like, so much comes from Harrison Wells, and his character is such an important one, and him not being in the comics is insane to me. Like, I got off rage about how much I love Harrison Wells. Specifically, well, I mean, this Harrison Wells in this episode is he's definitely a bit mysterious, but you know, he just has that energy. Yeah.
Harrison Wells is somebody that you're really going to come to love, I think, as you watch the series.
Come to love, come to hate, come to just appreciate as a character concept as a whole is great. I love Harrison Wells. There's not much we can say about him without getting into slightly spoilery territory. But so if people have not seen any of The Flash, Harrison Wells is cool. Just need to know that. I stopped watching The Flash. I think the last season I watched was season 3. But revisiting this definitely made me realize. It made me remember why I loved The Flash. It was for a long time one of my favorite shows. Season 1 especially. Season 1 is fantastic television. It sort of starts dropping off in the later seasons, I feel. I don't know. Obviously, I think... Are you up to date on it?
I'm pretty much up to date on it. I mean, It does kind of fall off, and then I think it picks back up in 5, and 6 is looking really good right now. Okay.
Yeah, I dropped off after season 3 just because it felt like it had gotten stuck in a lot of repetition. It got to the point where I'd be able to sort of guess what things were coming up. But it's strange how some of those recurring things some recurring things do happen in the first episode, but some of them don't. I've noted down, they say run Barry run twice, which just becomes essentially the show catchphrase. There's the thing about the lightning bolt choosing Barry. I think that comes back later. Oh, and of course there's Barry storming out of Star Labs, which, you know, becomes a recurring trend, just people storming out of Star Labs.
And I really think using Weather Wizard here is a really good first enemy for Flash to go against. I'm not all up on my Flash history, so I don't know like who his first enemy would be, but it seems like Weather Wizard is also somebody who doesn't really have a hold of his powers, probably a little bit better than Barry does, though.
Using someone who isn't a speedster is a very good idea, because obviously, like, Barry, the Flash as a whole has like 1 billion speedster enemies. It seems like everyone is a speedster, but like a big part of Barry's character is that he obviously has the Rogues Gallery, and I thought it was really good that they tapped into obviously Weather Wizard is an important part of the Rogues Gallery in the comics. Like, he is a villain that is known to be a Flash villain, but I feel like it was a good decision to not just go with an easy option and go, right, we're just going to put Speedster villain in, have him face the Speedster, and and choosing a not more interesting villain, but sort of like more, I feel like one you could do more with. Like the sequence where Barry untangles runs round the hurricane Martin creates in the opposite direction to unhurricane it. I thought that was really just a really clever use of his powers. I don't know if it would work, but it was cool.
That's more science. That's totally over my head there.
Yes.
But it's at least comic book science consistent, so we'll roll with it.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Superman turning back the planets thing. But no, I really enjoyed the first episode. I genuinely I forgot how much I loved the show as a whole. I thought it was just really exciting and fun. It just that I think is the most is the biggest word that I associate with just fun. I kept on I was just smiling the entire time watching it. It was great. And there were just so many little moments that made me laugh. At one point, I can't remember what he says, but Martin says something to Joe, and Joe just tells him to shut the hell up. I thought that was great. I have somewhere else, Joe West equals legend. When Barry awakens from his coma, Cisco's just playing Poker Face by Lady Gaga. No reason why. He says Barry enjoys the song, but he's just playing it, and I thought that was hilarious. There were just so many little moments where I just remembered why I love the characters. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the entire first run, the entire initial season, this is why we edit. What Flash starts out, it's just a whole lot of fun. It's a whole lot of taking themselves seriously in the right parts, but in the way where you're still going to have that smartass in the room who's being a smartass, and everybody knows that, so it's just going to happen. And not taking itself so seriously. I mean, you don't have any of the weird relationship drama things going on that you have over on the Arrow side of things.
I mean, there is some weird relationship drama.
There is, but it's not so blown up. It's normal, what you would expect in real life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Iris is dating her father's detective partner, and Barry, who has been raised as a brother to Iris, is in love with her, which is odd, to say the least.
It is. Later we learn that he's kind of been in love with her since well before that anyway, so it's not like he just falls in love with her when they're living in the same house.
Yeah. It's just a strange thing to, because obviously, like, they don't have that relationship in the comics, so it's a strange thing to have, like, in the meeting where we're like, okay, so we're making a Flash TV show, so Barry Allen, his main love interest, Iris West, genius, okay, we're going to have them, excellent. What if we make them sort of like adopted siblings? Yeah? Yeah, what are you thinking? It's just like, okay, but why? You could not have done that.
Whichever one of you has that dirty thought in your head, get it out right now, because it does not apply here.
It's just a strange decision to make. But it does introduce Joe West, so, you know, I can't hate it too much because Joe is incredible. But I was watching it. I was realizing there's a lot of the sort of effects look like really good. Like less so when it's a close up of Barry's face and there's stuff moving in the background, because that looks a bit green screeny. But like when there's just a sort of blur going through the streets, it looks great. Like, it genuinely looks like a film. It's great. So that was really fun to see. I just haven't watched The Flash in ages, so seeing the effects again, just I can never get enough of just shots of Barry going through the streets. It's great.
And Cisco is another wonderful character. I mean, you've got to have your tech person. I think that's...
Cisco's fantastic. He is... He's sort of not the, like, audience stand-in, but he's very much, he's the comics nerd, like, in the show. Well, he's just the nerd in the show, but it's great, and he just makes stupid references that, like, coming from someone else would feel just, like, cheap and easy jokes, but coming from Cisco, it's like, you know what, Cisco? Go on, my man. I respect you. But I do find it funny that he just... like a whole load of sort of things that become, I guess, important in show later just come from Cisco, like the lightning bolt that obviously becomes the symbol of the Flash. Cisco just puts on because it looks cool, and it's just. There's Superman, which has the S is the symbol of peace on my planet or something like that. And then there's just the Flash, which my friend thought a lightning bolt would be cool, so just stuck one on.
I mean, it does. He's not wrong.
It does look cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's great. Although I definitely prefer it later when they have the white background, and the lightning bolt over it, because I'm fairly sure that comes in later for some reason. I can't remember why. The just sort of, not like, I was going to say Three Stooges, but not really, like, but the chemistry between Cisco, Caitlin, and Barry is just, it's fantastic. Like, it genuinely feels like they're friends, and it's great. Like, less so from Caitlin early on, because she has a lot of issues, especially early on in season 1, that sort of, well, she has issues throughout the entire show, but like, she definitely feels like Cisco's friend, and like she sort of plays the straight man to Cisco in a fantastic way. And even if she does, like, there's one moment where Barry it's when he's in this like hideous training costume, and Barry says something to Caitlin, like asking her what's wrong, and she just goes like, she just dumps everything on him. She just goes like, oh yeah, my life is a failure, my job, everyone hates me, my boss is in a wheelchair, my fiance's dead, and it's like, okay, he was just asking what was wrong. You didn't need to do that to this poor man. But yeah, I love, like, a lot of the characters, they don't feel one note, which is good, like, especially so early on, because obviously lots of shows can find it hard to develop, like, make three-dimensional characters early on, but for me, obviously you may have felt different. It definitely felt like most of the characters were kind of multi-dimensional, like fairly early on, which is great.
Yeah, I think out of all the Arrowverse CW shows, the only other one that has such good characters from the beginning is Legends of Tomorrow, and that's almost cheating because those characters already existed and then were just pulled into that show.
Yeah. And the ones that didn't really have much of a sort of life outside Legends of Tomorrow, other than Rip Hunter in Legends of Tomorrow, fell a bit flat, like the Hawks. But no, we're talking about Flash, not Legends. Although I could talk about Legends for ages. Yeah, I was going to say something kind of saying that I didn't realise the first time I watched it, but like learning afterwards, is that John Wesley Shipp plays Barry's father, Henry Allen, who spends a lot of his time being in jail in the first season. And obviously he looks very handsome and rugged. But he played Barry in the 1990s Flash show. And so it's just cool to sort of have John Wesley Shipp be back in this role. Obviously not the exact role, but like be back in this show, which was I just thought that was quite a nice little like nod to the past. It was great.
I really love when shows are able to pull that kind of thing off. Just remembering the history that they have and that little nod to where, yeah, if I don't get it, it's not a big deal. Nobody cares. But if I do get it, oh, holy fuck, that's some cool shit.
They do a similar thing later on in, I think, season 2? Season 1 or season 2, where they have the Trickster, played by Mark Hamill, who I believe played him in the 1990 show. And they don't happen to be the exact same Trickster, but they do have the Trickster be played by the same person, which I thought was really just fun. And obviously I've never seen the 1990 show, so I can't appreciate it as much. But knowing it's just cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. The last time I looked, I could watch the first episode on Prime and then had to pay per episode for the rest, and I was just not going to do that.
Yeah, I think I didn't dive any deeper when I saw the costume, because it doesn't look great, I will admit. It's quite it was quite muscle suit. That's something that I was going to say, was the Flash suit in season 1. well, like just in the show as a whole, I really like the Flash suit. It feels sort of grounded, but not too grounded. Does that make sense?
Oh, perfectly.
Like it feels like it still is comic booky nonsense, but you can sort of look at it and go, yeah, like I could see someone making something similar to that in real life. And it just looks cool, I think. Like, I don't know, whenever I see him in the suit, I just get excited because it looks very cool. Although he does have the have the gas mask in because it was originally in show. It was originally a firefighters. It was a suit made for firefighters. That Cisco made, I think. And when he first appears in the suit, he's wearing this gas mask, and he pulls it off. But it was just so strange to see, like, because I completely forgotten about it. Because he just sort of discards it and like never wears it again. But it was so weird to just see him wear this gas mask because I'd gotten so used to how the like costume looks later on.
Yeah, but Hey, editor for Supersons, I'm sorry for all of my stumbling over myself, but I love you. You do some wonderful work. And if this stays in the episode, I don't know what I'll say, but I'll probably be very happy.
Fair enough.
The entire first season of Flash, I think, is really something to where you can get a nice general overview of the character. Again, this is coming from somebody who hasn't read a ton of Flash, but has done some quick research for some other things as I needed to for my own show. There's nothing in here that just screams to me, oh, you really have to go fucking unlearn this because it's wrong and horrible. I mean, obviously, there's going to be things they have to change for the TV show, but there's something you're going to have to change for every adaptation anyway. And one of the reasons I really like comics is just the fact that it is so adaptable. And yes, this might not be how it was in the 40s or 50s or 60s when somebody was created, but eventually, if you wait long enough, whatever version of Flash you're seeing here is going to be the version in the comics.
Yeah, of course. And like I like how like it never feels too much like, oh, you need to read the comics to get this. Like as you just said, you haven't read much Flash, and I haven't read much Flash either, but it doesn't feel like we're missing a lot by. Well, that sounds bad, but like it doesn't feel like things are going over our head for not reading it. Like obviously, reading the comics would give us a deeper understanding of things and deeper appreciation, but like it does feel like someone who's never read a comic in their life can just start watching The Flash and appreciate it.
I think my favorite part here is that you don't get the origin story of everything just totally banged over your head in this pilot episode. You get it spread out across the entire season, so you're not having... Yeah.
I did note down that we see the scene in which Nora Allen dies a lot just in this one episode. Like there are constant. Obviously, it happens. You see it in the beginning, and then you see it when he's training, and then you see it when he storms out, and you just see it a lot. And it's like we get it, you know. She died, and Barry's like, my dad didn't kill her. Who did? But like, yeah, like you don't have all these answers given to you straight away, and you're not beaten over the head with everything. But I did note that you see Nora's death a lot.
And really, if that's the one thing we can kind of complain about, I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, of course. Like, I definitely, like, I have some issues with later Flash episodes and seasons, but like as a whole, like both as a pilot episode and as a adaptation of the Flash and just episode of television, I really enjoyed the pilot episode of the Flash. Like, I thought it's able to sort of sum up the Flash quite well. Like, you have him being speedy, and you sort of have a rogue, and like it just I don't know where I was going with this, but like it just feels like it's the Flash, and I just really appreciate it as an episode of television. Okay, do you have any favourite moments? Any things that stand out to you as like that was good?
Honestly, I think my favorite moment is more of a, because I know how things are coming, but I just really like the Lady Gaga being played when Barry's woken up. I think that is a basically perfect summary of Cisco as a character.
Yeah, like it really works, like, because it's the first time, I'm fairly sure it's the first time we meet Cisco, and it really works to just sort of straight away get who this character is. Like, he's just playing Lady Gaga while looking after a guy in a coma. It's just a great moment to sort of emphasize who this person is. Yeah, I think my favorite moment probably it's the ending scene. And I can't elaborate too much why, but I think the scene in which Harrison Wells looks at the future newspaper, there's so much, like, you already have questions, but it just throws so many more questions at you, but not in a way that you're sort of left feeling like you don't know anything. You're left thinking just what is going on, but in a good way, and like the mystery of Harrison and how it develops over the course of that season is fantastic. And like, I think that it really helps to sell season 1 of The Flash. Like, I feel like season 1 of The Flash benefits so much from Harrison Wells as a character's sort of dodgy dealings, one could say. Yeah, I loved that scene just because of all the implications that come with it, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, that scene, it definitely makes you have more questions, but it doesn't make you feel like you missed anything. Yeah, and I think that second part is really what makes it.
Okay. Any other comments, or should we end it there?
Well, obviously, I think everybody should go watch The Flash.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
There are going to be seasons where it's not as good. Okay, that's fine. That happens in TV shows. What are you going to do?
I think I'm, like, having watched episode 1 again, I think I might try and push back, like, get back into it. But I just couldn't be bothered. It felt more like a chore to watch, like it, but I feel like this has sort of reinvigorated just my love for the show. So I might have a second go through.
You definitely should. It's one that it's probably my second favorite Arrowverse show.
What's your first? Legends.
Legends, of course.
Legends is fantastic. But yeah, brilliant. Okay, so Where can listeners find you?
Well, if you want to hear more from me, you can head on over to playcomics.com and check out Play Comics, where you can see that intersection of comics and video games. Or you can head on over to Twitter at PlayComicsCast. Those are probably the easiest places to go find me, and I am always very happy to interact with fans or people who just want to call me dumb because I miss things. Because that, I mean, honestly, it's the internet. That the best way to learn something is to throw some wrong information out there.
Okay, I do not have a podcast or anything yet, but you can follow me on Twitter at MortalFinlay1, which is Mortal and then Fin Lay 1, where I mostly shitpost and cry. But yeah, brilliant.
I mean, that's basically Twitter in a nutshell, so we're good to go.
It is mostly Twitter in a nutshell. But yeah, brilliant. So thank you for listening. Chris, thank you for helping me do this first episode of a podcast I've been on.
Well, hopefully the addiction kicks in and you find something else.
Brilliant.
And if you want to find Dan and Jake, you're going to have to figure out what prison they're being held in, because they're not letting me know.
I think they're in Arkham. I don't know. They may be moved.
They probably are going to be moved, because those criminal masterminds, I mean, they're going to take over Arkham.
Arkham gets broken out of every 2 weeks. It's not safe to keep them in there. But I think you can follow Supersons. Is it at Supersons Pod on Twitter?
It is at DC Supersons.
DC Supersons.
Let me make sure, because I have Twitter open anyway. Yes, Excellent. It is at DC Supersons on Twitter. They are a wonderful follow as well. I would tell you that they're a wonderful show, but you obviously know that already since you're listening to us here.
Yes. So follow them. I didn't know the right Twitter. Chris does. I'm done. But yes, follow them. And thank you for listening.